What's up, my alphas? Welcome to Leading the Pack. I'm your host, Dom Clegg, mental performance coach and former football coach, dedicated to helping you turn your mindset into your ultimate weapon and help you become the alpha of your life. Now it's time to level up and lead your pack. Let's attack this work together. I'm super excited about who we have on today. We have Ian Bowen. And to give you a little bit of background about Ian, Ian is, I don't know, you might call him a medical miracle. I'm not totally sure, but at age 32, Ian was diagnosed with neurosarcoidosis, a rare autoimmune disease that left him paralyzed from the chest down. With two young kids at the time and a promising career, doctors told him he'd never run again, let alone maybe even walk again. And Ian had other plans, though. Through sheer grit, determination, and what he calls positive persistence, Ian defied all odds, relearning how to sit, stand, and eventually run. And in 2022, he completed his first marathon, turning a diagnosis into a comeback story of resilience and purpose. Ian is the creator of the rinse method, which we're going to dive into, but it's remember, imagine, notice, shift, and expect. And mindset framework he now uses to coach others through their own challenges. He's a Ben Newman certified coach, a motivational speaker, and the owner of Fit Body Boot Camp in Chesterton, Indiana. Whether it's through coaching or his Positive Persistence podcast, which I've been on, which was awesome. So you definitely go check that out. Or speaking on stages, Ian empowers people to break through limiting beliefs and rise above adversity. He lives in Indiana with his wife and 6 children, continuing to lead by example, whether that's physically, mentally, or spiritually. Ian's story is just about overcoming the odds and unlocking the full potential of thriving against all odds. So, Ian, thanks for joining.
Dom, thanks to you for having me, man. It is a pleasure to be on the show and to talk with you and the Alpha Pack Nation.
Yeah, appreciate it. Appreciate it. We're gonna just dive on in. That's how we do it here, and I think you know that because that's how you do it. Is just dive right on in.
Yeah.
Talk to us about your remarkable journey. Right, take us back to when you first received your diagnosis of neurosarcoidosis. I practiced that multiple times to make sure I got it
Yes,
right,
most. Yes.
and just kind of talk us through your initial reaction and then like the mindset you kind of had to instill in yourself when you first were faced with paralysis on a daily basis.
Yeah, so you mentioned it a little bit already in the intro. This was this is back in 2009, so I was 32 years old. So you can tell how old I am right now if you do the math. And at that point in my life, I had been an athlete my entire life. Soccer was my sport. Um, I was a runner. I had a physical job, and actually, my job, my career was going up. So I had just gotten a promotion. I was in a leadership position, and I had two small kids. My daughter was 6. My son was 1. Young father, and life was humming. Right, it's going along fine. And then the universe decided to test me, I guess. So I won't bore you and your listeners and viewers with the details, but out of nowhere, I just started to have some tingling in my right leg, and I didn't think much of it. And of course, like most guys, I just ignored it and figured it would go away, right? But it didn't. So that actually spread to my left leg, and this is in a matter of a couple of days, from my left leg and then all the way up into my chest, so right underneath my pecs. And I had some pretty serious nerve pain at that point. And so I finally decided I'm gonna go get it checked out, go to the doctor. My doctor had been my doctor for years, so she had known my medical history, which has been pretty spotless up until this point. Never broken a bone, never had any issues, rarely got sick. So when I started to tell her what the symptoms were, she said that's really odd. So we need to get an MRI. So she sent me to get an MRI. Came back, and the results, I had a spot on my spinal cord, and she didn't know exactly what it was. The radiologist didn't know exactly what it was. So they sent me to get some tests done, and all those tests came back inconclusive. And so at that point, she said, "Look, we are going to send you to the experts at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota." Now, if you know anything about the Mayo Clinic, that's like the experts of experts there. They run me through a battery of tests, and this is probably now 2 weeks after my symptoms have first started. They run me through their own MRI, and sure enough, they find, yes, you do have something on your spinal cord. And when we compare it to your first MRI, that something has actually grown in size. So now I have tinglings in my legs. I have chest pain. I have something that's on my spinal cord that is now growing rapidly. And now I have a new symptom, and that is where I'm having trouble actually walking. So they run me through their battery of tests, and again, everything comes back inconclusive. And at this point, they say, look, we don't know what this thing is exactly, but we have an idea. It's either a tumor growing on your spinal cord, so it could be cancer, or we think it could be this disease called neurosarcoidosis. So at that point, I'm thinking, okay, so what I heard anyway was you either have cancer or you have this rare disease that I've never heard of before.
So it's like a toss up. Like, which one do I want? Cancer or this rare disease
Yeah,
that maybe
exactly. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, how do you deal with that in this in this again? This has been in a probably about a 3 week process at this point where I've gone from perfect health and no issues to all of a sudden having all of these symptoms and now being told by these experts that I either may have cancer or this disease that you can barely say. So they said, look, since all of our tests came back inconclusive, there's one thing left that we can do, and that is we have to go in surgically and we need to take a biopsy of this, what they called a lesion growing on your spinal cord. But the issue is it's not growing on your spinal cord, it's actually growing in your spinal cord, meaning that it is intertwined with the spinal cord tissue. So they said when we go in and take that biopsy, this is a very risky surgery. And I remember this like it was yesterday. They said, Ian, you could be paralyzed for the rest of your life. But we need to go in and find out what this thing is so we can chart a course of action to take care of it. Now, I don't know if I was just naive and optimistic, 32 years old, used to be in perfect health. But I'm thinking in my head, yes, let's go in. You're going to find this thing. You're going to biopsy it. You're going to figure out what it is. You're going to treat me and send me on my way, and I'm going to heal. No problem. Because I'm thinking like it's a broken bone, right? Like you're going to go in, you're gonna set it, fix me up, send me to PT. I'm good. Because this is in June of 2009, and I was actually training for a 5K in August.
so you gotta get right. You gotta have a path to that, right? You can't just be like, oh, I'll
Yeah,
just sit here and hope it gets better and we'll just
right.
figure it out from all
Yes,
these inconclusive tests.
exactly. I'm like, okay, here's the action that you say you think you need to take. Let's do that. Fix me up because I need to get back to training because I want to run this race.
Yeah, this is just a blip on your radar at this point, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So I sign off on the surgery. Let's do it. Go in, I have the surgery. I remember waking up in my recovery room, and one of the nurses that was taking care of me said to me, Mr. Bowen, good news. It's not cancer. Okay. It is neurosarcoidosis, which is treatable, but not curable. All right. Then at that moment, I realized that I can't feel anything from my chest to my toes. So the worst outcome had actually happened. I was paralyzed from the chest down.
What was like the first thoughts that ran through your mind? Just
That's,
initial
yeah.
thoughts.
To be honest, at first I'm thinking it's just the anesthesia. Like this is gonna wear off. But I literally couldn't wiggle my toes. I couldn't feel like the bed sheets on my body. Like there was nothing from my chest down to my toes. No feeling, no sensation, no movement. So 75% of my body was rendered useless.
So then once you realize it wasn't the anesthesia,
That was probably like a day or two later when I'm now in my actual hospital room and my medical team, my neurologist and my neurosurgeon come in and check on me. And they're with another nurse. And this nurse has a push pin and she starts to do some like neurological tests on me. And one of them is that she's poking my feet, poking my legs with this push pin, like sticking me. And every time asking me, can you feel this? Can you feel this? Can you feel this? Can you feel this? All the way up my legs, into my belly. And every time I'm like, no, no, no. And then my doctors start to talk to me about my prognosis. And they said, Ian, we think you'll be able to walk again, but you're probably going to need a cane, crutches, or a walker. And in my head, I'm still thinking, I got this 5K. in August. So I asked them, well, am I ever going to run again? And that's when they said, no, most likely not. And I'll tell you, Dom, in that moment, it was a pivotal point because as we always do, and this is something that I talk about a lot, is that we always have a choice on how we're going to decide to react or respond to a situation. And in that moment, I decided in advance that what they told me was not going to be my future. And I want to make this clear to you, and I want to make this clear to all of the Alpha Pack Nation is that you must never, ever let someone else's perception of your capabilities become your reality. Because at that point, you have given up all of your power and you've let their perception of what you can do or who you are become your driving force. And in that moment, I did not allow that to happen. So when they told me that you are never going to run again, in my head, I was saying, watch me.
Yep. Just watch me.
I've got this race to run in August. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm going to make it happen. And in that moment, I took it to the opposite extreme. Like you say, I'm never going to run again. I thought to myself, I'm going to walk again. I'm going to run again. And not only am I going to run again, I'm going to run a marathon. Now, I never run a marathon in my life. Like the 5K was the longest I had ever ran. But in my head, that was it. Like, I'm going to prove you wrong, and I'm going to prove you wrong so big that you're not going to be able to deny it. And I'm going to prove this not only to you, but to myself. Because as we know, Ben Newman talks about the standard, right? The standard I had for myself was way up here. And my identity was connected to that standard. And that hit me hard when they said, you're not going to be able to run it. It was almost like it was personal to me. Like you felt like saying, you don't know who you're talking to. You don't know me. You're going to tell me what I can and what I can't do. And that actually speaks to a whole nother story about my father and he was very strict. And I always joke that, rest his soul because he's passed, but I always joke that I have an adverse relationship with authority because of him. And when they told me that you can't, it was like flashback to childhood, like, really? Okay. So anyway, and in that moment, then after they told me that, I was like, let's start physical therapy. Let's go. And luckily for me, and in my story and in my journey, I've had a lot of amazing people that have supported me through my recovery. And I had an amazing physical therapist there at the hospital who was just kind of up for anything because I was always pushing the boundaries. So I was there for about 3 weeks. And in that 3 weeks, I started to regain some sensation. I started to regain some feeling. I mean, I had to learn how to do everything all over again from like literally sitting up in bed and sliding on a piece of wood into my wheelchair to get around. They literally used to have to crane me out of my bed before that to put me in my wheelchair.
Because yeah, you don't have anything from here down, so you can't even use like your abs. You don't know how you're using your abs because you can't feel
No.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and they had the incision where the neurosarcoidosis was in my thoracic spine, so like in between my shoulder blades. So that's where they had to cut. They had to cut through all my muscle. They had to cut through all my bone. So even like trying to pry myself up in my hospital was painful because all of those muscles were cut. Um, but anyway, long story short, my physical therapist was just game for anything that I wanted to try. And I was always pushing that boundary and I was always doing the unrequired, which again, Ben Newman talks about, right? So I would have PT twice a day. First PT session was at 7. I'm up in my bed at 6 doing whatever I can just to move some things before I go to PT. Go to PT, I come back to my hospital room, got plenty of time on my hands, I'm not going anywhere, right? So I do, again, whatever I can. I continue to work on the stuff that we did in physical therapy just because I'm like, I'm going to do everything in my power because my goal was 100% recovery. Like there was no other option. In my mind, It was I either make it or I make it, and that's it, right? And when you have that as your driving force, and there's no other option but success, you're probably going to have some success.
It's the idea of burning the boats, correct? Like
It's
it's this
exactly right.
path or nothing. Like I'm not going back home, I'm not going back to the boats. It's either I get through this path or I get lost in this path. And getting lost in this path still means I'm still heading down the path and I'm going to find a new way if I need to.
That's exactly right. And for me, like I said, I had two small kids at home. I was not going to be relegated to a wheelchair for the rest of my life. And for those individuals out there who are listening and watching, and you are in a wheelchair, that is not to take anything away from you. I did live that life for quite some time, but that wasn't, again, that wasn't the standard. That wasn't the identity I had for myself. I wanted to be able to get back on the floor with my kids and be able to carry them. Like, whew, thinking about this, it makes me a little bit emotional, but like having that thought of not being able to pick up my 1-year-old son in my arms and carry him around, that just ripped me to pieces. Like I didn't want to be, I want to live that life. I wanted to be able to do all the things with my kids as I raised them. So it was like, again, there are no other options but success. But I'm gonna tell you that was it was 2 years ago that I ran my second marathon. And my care team, because I ran this marathon in Rochester, my care team was there and they surprised me at the finish line. So I got to actually meet my neurologist and my neurosurgeon and my PT, and that was awesome. And when I saw my neurologist and my neurosurgeon, gave a hug at the end. It's like, I don't know if I should hug you or punch you in the face because you told me that I was never going to be able to run again. And for years I was like, why would he tell me that? Like, why would he tell me that? And I came to realize that, you only know what you know. As a doctor, you only know what you experience, right? And so patients who he had performed a similar surgery to or had the same disease that I had typically don't have the comeback that I have had. And when we talked about it, one of the main things was this right here,
Mindset is everything.
Mindset is everything. And what I know from my experience, not only for myself, but also in coaching clients for over the last decade plus, is that whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. It is up to you. It is your decision on how hard you're going to push. It is your decision on how hard you're going to work. It is your decision on how you are going to carry yourself. It's your decision on what your standard you're going to set for yourself and are you going to live up to that standard. It is up to you and nobody else. And when you understand that, when you embody that no one's coming to save you because it's on you, then it's like there's no excuses left. There's no excuses left. If you fail, that's on you. You didn't work hard enough. If you succeed, you put in the work, congratulations. Great job, right? And then what's the next challenge that we have to attack? And for me, that's also the mantra, the mindset that I had all the way through my recovery. Going from that wheelchair to the walker. Excellent. Great job. Success. Well, what's the next goal? That's to go from the walker to 2 crutches. Great, did that. Okay, nice job. Now what's next? Now we got to learn how to climb steps. Now we got to go from those 2 crutches to 2 canes, from 2 canes to 1 cane, to finally no cane. And this was about a year and a half that it took me to go to no cane and walk unassisted without any durable medical equipment, which wasn't supposed to happen. Get there. Great. What's
The thing
next?
the thing I want to like point out to everybody is like this can be for anybody, right? You don't have to go through paralysis to get to this mindset, right? You can instill
Correct.
this mindset currently and hitting those goals, hitting the next goal, hitting the next goal. But it goes back to what Ben says. Again, we'll just keep referring to Ben, I guess. Maybe he'll have to come on, but no seduction of success, right? You could have been like, cool, I got to a walker. That's all I need, right? You could have easily said, I'm not actually paralyzed anymore. I'm in a walker. I can use a walker for the rest of my life. But
I
you
could
didn't.
have. You're right. And you're exactly right. This isn't just for people who need to come back from a medical surgery or an accident or something like that. But yes, use this for sure. But this is for anybody who wants to continue to succeed in life and kind of push themselves forward. It's all about that rinse methodology that you talked about and what I teach about and what I coach on. And that is simply remembering that you can do hard things. I know that everybody that's listening and watching this podcast, you have been in a situation before where you felt like you have been backed up against the wall. You didn't know how you're going to get out of it. You didn't know how you're going to accomplish it, but you knew that you just had to get it done and you figured it out. FIO, you figured it out. And when you do that, when you figure it out, when you are able to overcome that adversity that stands in front of you, you have now created a tool that you can put in what I like to call your metaphysical backpack. Boom. Put it back there. Now you carry that with you for life. Because when the next adversity comes, and we all know it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. When it happens, you take that last experience, you take it out of your backpack, and you go to work on that next obstacle. And when you conquer that one, now you have a new tool. Boom, stick it in your metaphysical backpack. So you always remember that you can accomplish great things because you've done it before. And then something else I talk about is imagine. And this is something that I really had to dig into when I was in my hospital bed because, like I said, I had plenty of time, didn't have much else to do.
Just sitting around.
Sitting around, yes. So what I would do is I would imagine, but not just imagine. I would visualize myself walking again. So beginning with the end in mind, knowing that what my goal was going to be, I would visualize and I would imagine how it would feel, how it would look. I mean, so clearly that I would feel like the wind from walking against my face. I would visualize and imagine what it would be like for my feet to actually feel the floor and what it would be like to stand up and not view life from my wheelchair. But when you can imagine those things, and again, it's not just picturing it in your mind, it's actually being there in the moment. What are the things that you're smelling? What are the things that you're seeing? What are the things that you're hearing? What are the things that you're feeling? And then when you can, again, replicate that emotion that you're having in that moment, that starts to bring your future towards you.
I think that's huge. Like that, I'm going to pause you real quick and then we're going to finish rinse because I think the whole thing's important. But
Mhm.
the visualization, I feel, is sometimes overlooked, especially in sometimes in sports, but even in business, right? If you can put yourself in that boardroom, knowing exactly who you're going to talk to, the carpet below your feet, the AC's on, maybe blowing in your hair, right? Or maybe it's it's going to be hot in that room, so you visualize all this and you see
Yeah,
yourself doing it. How much more likely are you to actually succeed in what you're doing and giving that presentation, of closing that deal, of making that game-winning catch, making that game-winning shot, whatever it is? Your chances go way up, right? You go
absolutely.
from being a normal person, going having your whatever your talents are, to already seeing yourself, so your mind already knows this is what's going to happen.
Yes. And then you start to pull all kinds of possibilities towards you as well that may help you in that moment that you would never have been privy to if you weren't already imagining and visualizing that moment. Little things, again, once you start to imagine, once you start to think about it, you start to pull things towards you, start to pull possibilities towards you that will help you in that moment. So you're right. It's underutilized. It doesn't get a lot of respect because I think a lot of people think it's foo-foo, right? But I'll tell you, proof positive, it helped me out tremendously.
I used to think it was foo-foo. When I was playing, people would like visualize. I'm like, I don't need to do that. I'm good, right? That's not for me. I'm into some hippie stuff. Now, before I speak, I'm visualizing myself up there delivering exactly how I want to with the right delivery, the right tone, the right spacing in my talk,
Yes.
and I've leveled up because of it.
Yes.
So it's not, and you're proof. Like I'm telling you, like, hey, I can go speak. You're living proof of you can go from paralysis to running multiple marathons because of visualization.
It is absolutely a tool that helps you prime your mind and your body to be able to achieve what you set out to achieve. And what's important is I kind of talked a little bit about noticing, which is the in rinse. And when you notice your small wins along the way, and again, for me on my journey, being someone who was very driven to walk again and someday run again, the journey was long and it was hard. And I was going to, once I got home out of the hospital, I was going to PT 5 days a week. Again, luckily for me, I had another amazing physical therapist. But there were days where it was rough. Like I didn't want to do the work. There were those days where, and I'm not trying to paint a picture. I'm all about positive persistence, Dom, but I'm not here to tell you that it's 24/7, right? There are those days, or there were those days where I was like, man, why me? Why did this happen to me? Why did I choose to have that surgery? What if we went some other route? Would I be paralyzed right now? Would I be struggling like this right now?
I'm glad our the audience can know that you're actually human and you're not a cyborg over there, Ian. That you actually deal with the same struggles that they do. Maybe like they don't want to do something, or the feelings that drop in of doubt or not sure of what's going to happen in the future.
Absolutely. And what I say to anyone who is dealing with those lows in life or those obstacles that are in your way that are pushing you back and you're feeling that resistance, what my physical therapist would do is I would go in, and we had a good relationship. She would see it on my face. She would see it in my body language and in my tone, and she would understand that I was, having a bad day, and she would let me sit in it for a minute. And then she would look at me and she would say, "Are you done now? Can we get to work?" So she let me have that pity party, right? But what I'm saying is that it's important to acknowledge those feelings and not just push past them and feel like, us as, as men, like we shouldn't feel these feelings of weakness or feel these feelings of sadness or vulnerability. We should just stuff them down and just push forward. Well, it's important to acknowledge those feelings. Sit in it for a minute, but don't stay there, right? It's important to then push forward and start again on your and start putting that work in again.
So let's attack the work, right? All you can control is how you attack the work.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And something that I had a hard time doing up until that point is my physical therapist would say, you need to notice how far you've come. Is yeah, I know that you want to be able to walk again and run again, but look how far you've come. Notice the small wins that you've had up until this point. Going from paralyzed in that hospital bed to now walking with a walker, two canes, two crutches, or two canes to one cane. She would help me remember, right, the things that I was able to do, and she would help me notice the small wins that I had along the way. And what that did was that gave me more confidence to push forward. Because once I was able to look back and notice all the things that I had done up until that point, it made me realize I was making progress. It might not have been as fast as I wanted, but it was happening. And all that did was that fueled my fire to realize that I can continue to push because I've gotten this far. What'll happen if I continue to push forward? So noticing your small wins is huge because as we all know, as you stack the small ones, eventually they turn into big ones. And what that helped me do leads right into the S. It helped me shift my mindset. And it really helped me focus on the things that I could do instead of the things that I couldn't do. Right? Because it was only a matter of time before I turned those things that I couldn't do into things that I could do. But so many times we focus on the things that we're having trouble with, the things that we're lacking. And what that does is that causes a separation between us and the thing that we want to achieve. Because now we have this mental block, this wall in front of us that I can't do this, or I'm having a hard time with this. With my training clients in the gym, there are 5 words that we don't allow in the gym. And they are
Can't wait.
try, can't, won't, don't, and sorry. Because those are all powerless words that lead to negativity. And when you start sentences with those words coming out of your mouth, that sentence is going to end negatively. So it's all about this again. It's all about that mindset, right? And I'm going to finish up, tie it up with the E in rinse, and that is all about expect. And expect is actually, it's two-pronged, if you will. One prong is expect your journey to whatever you are trying to achieve, whether it's trying to get a new job or whether it is trying to get a new relationship or establish a new business or whatever it is. Know that, expect that that journey is going to be difficult. Expect it to be hard. Because when you do that, what you're actually formulating mental toughness along the way. Because when you expect it to be difficult, once that adversity comes, you are ready for it. You're ready for it. It's not going to surprise you. When it rears its ugly head, you can say, okay, adversity, I've been expecting you. Let's go. And on the other side of that expect is expect to win. Expect to win. You got to have that dog in you, Dom. When that adversity hits and it pushes you back and you have that resistance and you push back, you have to know that no matter what, I'm going to win. No matter what, I'm going to succeed. No matter what, I am not going to quit until I am done. So expect to win. And when you have that behind your back, like the wind in your sails pushing you forward, of that, I either make it or I make it, I expect to win, and I will do everything in my power until that happens. That's what positive persistence is all about.
That's amazing. I listened to your podcast before, but I needed rinse right now. I was struggling with some stuff today of getting frustrated, and I needed rinse. So I appreciate it. I hope our audience listen to that and they can play it back as many times as they need to. Right? Keep learning it, redoing it, remembering it. Right? All that stuff. The one thing I want to touch on throughout your whole story is I think that a lot of people, I know you did a lot of this on your own, and a lot of it was great mental fortitude on your own, of mental toughness, of having a mind shift. But talk to me about what it was like to surround yourself with people that truly believed in you and were there to support you. And also from the other side, I guess before this, maybe even people who have doubted you, right? The doctor might have doubted you, which probably was the best thing for you without you knowing, of gave you that the just watch me of like, all right, I'll prove you wrong. But talk to me about having all those people in your corner and how you can thrive in life by building out a good corner or a good pack per se.
Yeah, it's yeah, I love that. Well, nice play on words. I like that. So it is a super important to have that packed because what I have learned in my recent past is that having somebody in your corner that is there for you unconditionally is so important. Because on those, they're gonna, if you have that person that's gonna be there for you on the days that you're winning, great. But when they are there for you in your weakest moment, in your most vulnerable state, and they're still telling you, you can do it, you're the best, I believe in you, man, you need that. Because what in that moment, you need to borrow their confidence in you. Because there's at times with people that I work with, even high performers, high achievers, we get into slumps and we start to doubt ourselves. We start to doubt our abilities. We start to doubt, can I really stretch myself to take that next leap, whether it's with business or in a relationship or in whatever aspect of your life. But when you have a group of people, or even one, it could be just one person that is there for you always, that's going to lift you up always, and have that unconditional love and support for you. When you can plug into that, man, talk about feeling unstoppable and knowing that someone is always going to be there to have your back. That is really important. So if you can surround yourself with one to multiple people that you are connecting with that are there for your best interest and you are there for them, right? It has to, obviously has to be reciprocal because I've been in those relationships too where it wasn't reciprocal. And that's nothing but an energy suck. But when you can have that reciprocity of I've got you no matter what, I have unconditional love for you, I have unconditional respect for you, I will be here for you when you need me, and vice versa. Man, that strengthens your armor to take on whatever you have and standing in front of you.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask because, like, I was thinking, well, you had the doctors; they were able to at least figure out some diagnosis. They gave you this. Then you had the PT at the Mayo. Then you had your PT back home. Plus, you had your wife, right? You had different people in your corner that were helping you throughout that. And it was the idea of like, yes, it comes down to you choosing to do it. It takes you to do the actual work. They can't do the work for you, but they're there also to help you and keep reminding you of what you've done. Those small victories. I know I struggle with the small victories all the time. My wife, Maddie, has to be like, stop. You're here. Look at where you were before this, right? So
Yeah.
having those people to kind of cheer you on, encourage you, let you sit in yourself, but then pull you out of those dark times at the same time, I think it's crucial that people, you don't have to do it on your own. I think that's a huge mistake that a lot of people think they have is I have to do all this on my own. No, you have to do a lot of it, but not all of it.
Yeah, if you can, again, like you said, man, you don't want to suffer in silence because that sucks, right? You don't have to do it on your own, right? There are people around you that love you and let them love you. Like let them help you. I mean, the old me was like, I got this. Like, don't bother me. I'm gonna do this on my own. I was an only child. That's how I was raised. And again, I butted heads with my father, so I really was always like, just I'm gonna do this on my own. I'm good. Um, but with my wife now, because I've been divorced and remarried, she has really opened my eyes to again that unconditional love and support and how powerful that can be. Because as the person she is, she becomes my like my force multiplier. Like I am a better version of myself because I let her in and her love is and her support is so amazing um that I wouldn't be the person I am right now if it weren't for her. And so again, the message there is just don't suffer in silence, let people help you that want to help you.
I liked how you pointed out that it's a gift for them as well, right? They get the feeling of serving someone else, which is what we're all called to do, is serve others. So by you trying to do it all on your own and not letting anybody in, you're also denying them that gift of being able to help and be there for you. And I think that's a crucial thing for people to think about because if you're a leader, right? If you're a leader in life, you want to serve others, but you can't always be serving others. Just like you said, it has to be reciprocal. So if you expect for people to allow you to help them, you have to be able to willing to do the same, which also takes some vulnerability, which is what a leader does. They get vulnerable.
Yes, absolutely. You have to be able to allow yourself to be poured into, right? So you can be full, so you can pour into others, right? And I forget what the saying is, but something along the lines of, you can't pour out of an empty cup, right? So you have to be full yourself to be able to add that value and serve others. So if people can do that for you, man, surround yourself with those people. And like I said, if it's not one, make it multiple because the more the merrier.
No doubt. No doubt. I wanted to make sure we got to positive persistence. I want you to talk about, I know you kind of talked about it in your story, which I am sure that's where it came from, but
Yeah.
just defining that and how can people use that as like high performers or just people in life using positive persistence on a daily basis and not necessarily this big idea of positive persistence.
Yeah. So I'm glad you asked that because the name was born out of me telling the story and using it to inspire and motivate my clients over the years. And they would ask me like, how did you do it? Like how did you go from being paralyzed and in a wheelchair to being a marathon runner and a coach? And one day I thought about it. It's like, I really thought about how did I actually do it? And the answer that came to my head, it was just a lot of positive persistence, right? And what that boils down to is I already know what's going to happen if I don't do my best. If I don't wake up and say, today's going to be a good day, because I decide it's going to be a good day. I already know what's going to happen if I don't do that. Why don't I find out what happens if I do? And then that positive mindset, positive thoughts yield positive outcomes. And there was a quote that one of my best high school buddies who visited me in the hospital when I was there gave me, and it's from Gandhi, and it's that strength does not come from physical capacity. It comes from an indomitable will. And for me, that meant this right here. Having those positive thoughts of resilience, having those positive thoughts of I either make it or I make it, having those positive thoughts or of the only way that this is going to be is it's up to me. And that's where that positivity came from. And then the persistence piece is all about, again, knowing that you have to continue to fight every day. You have to make that choice, that intentional choice. When you wake up, is it going to be a good day or is it going to be a bad day? And that's going to be up to you. And then you continue to push forward no matter what stands in your way, because like we already said, that next obstacle's coming. And we already know what'll happen if we don't go at it full force. If we don't do everything in our power to overcome that obstacle, we already know that it's going to defeat us. Why don't we find out what happens if we continue to push? And it is a grind, right? And I hesitate to use that word because that's grind culture. You got to grind. Yes, you have to work hard. Yeah, absolutely. You have to be persistent. You have to go after it. I want if we think back to when we were kids, and for those of us out there who have kids and who are wanting a certain like Christmas present, or they want a new bike or whatever, you were persistent in asking your parents. Like, you bugged the hell out of them until you got what you wanted, right? So why don't we invoke that same spirit when we're adults of being persistent? Not letting no be the answer. As Les Brown said, let no be your vitamin. Let that strengthen you. Let that increase your resolve. That if you get that pushback, I'm going to push back harder. And I'm not going to stop until I achieve my goal. And having that persistence, eventually, you're going to wear down the resistance. And you're going to break through the other side. And you're going to achieve what you set out to achieve. And so for me, that's what positive persistence is all about. And that's what I talk about when I'm coaching my clients in the gym, when I'm coaching my clients through success coaching. We're talking about having that positive persistence of not giving up, because we already know what'll happen if we do. Why don't we find out what happens if we don't?
I love that. I love all that. The idea of when you said you don't let them use try, because that would be going against positive persistence. That'd be going against not giving maximum effort and doing everything you possibly can to get it. Because if you try, you're only giving partial effort, and you're willing to stop once it gets hard because you tried it. Oh, it's good enough. I can move on. But trying and positive persistence are not in the same league. And so it makes sense that you'll never try. You'll always just do, and you'll just keep doing it with persistence. And then choosing the attitude. I think that's crucial of like, you choose your attitude at the end of the day. No one else chooses it for you. It's up to you to choose. Do I want to have a positive attitude and go attack this day and make it the best day it could possibly be? Or am I going to sit in my sorrows or sit in the darkness because I don't feel like wanting to do that?
Yeah. And again, there are plenty of days where you don't feel like it, right? And I'm not here to say that you should do this, you should do that, and it's an easy piece of cake. It's not. Like, this shit is hard, man. Like, on the days where you don't want to do it. Like, it's hard. That is difficult to get up and decide, even when you're in a bad spot, to decide that you're not going to allow it to determine how you're going to act that day. You're not going to allow that situation to determine what your energy is going to be like that day. Sometimes that shit is hard. But you have to realize that it is, again, is up to you. It is up to you to decide how you're going to handle that situation, how you're going to attack that day. And yes, by using the word try, for me, that is the next best excuse of why you can't, because it's a built-in excuse. And if you say that you can't, then you never will. Because again, now you're telling yourself that I don't have what it takes to get it done. And that doesn't fly with me, because here is what I know for myself and what I've seen over the years with people that I've dealt with, people that I've mentored, people that I've worked with, is that you are more powerful than you realize. People don't understand how powerful as human beings we are to be able to achieve amazing things. We just have to get out of our own way. If we can remove the doubt, if we can remove the limiting self-talk, if we can remove other people's perceptions of us, if we can remove all of that, and we can tap into our mind and our heart, because this is also what I know. When those two things are in alignment, your mind being your mindset, your heart being your conviction, when those two things are in alignment, Dom, you are on fire, and that's when you become unstoppable. But in order to do that, you have to tap into your inner power and know, know. I'm gonna say it one more time. You have to know, KNOW, that you are everything that you need. You have it. You already have it. You just got to get in there. Sometimes you got to dig around in there and figure out where it's at, but it's there. And once you tap into that, man, telling you, that's where the gold is at. That's where the positive persistence lies, right here. When you connect those two things, boom, you are locked in and you are ready to go.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm gonna let you wrap real quick, even though you probably just mic dropped right there with that one, because I feel like that was a great segue. But if there's anything you wanted to give advice to, whether it's a listener listening, maybe that can help them, or just your younger self, anything that you would like to wrap up with when it comes to life, mindset, leadership, overcoming adversity, the floor is yours.
Yeah, man. Going back to my younger self, I kind of already touched on it, but that is, don't suffer in silence. Allow other people to help you. Um, and again, it is always your decision on how you're going to respond to a situation. And again, and I have to say this again. When you are able to take your mind, your mindset, and your heart, your conviction, and you put those two things together with intentional focus, you can bust through anything. Because again, you are more powerful than you know.
Mic
Mic
drop.
drop.
Love it. Love it. Well, I really appreciate it, Ian. I had a lot of fun. I even relearned and learned some more stuff today. So I hope our listeners were able to learn from your story, learn from what you're teaching people currently, and
Oh,
how
Dom,
you're
you
doing
froze up. Can you
things.
hear me?
Um, would love to have you back on at some point, and we can catch back up and maybe talk some
Dom, can you
more
hear me?
about leadership and different things you got going on when it comes to coaching and life. But for now, I'll have all of Ian's stuff down in the description. We'll make sure that you guys can
Dom, you still
contact him
there?
if you want to work with him, whether he as a coach or a speaker, have him come speak to your organization or just work with you one on one. Would love to have that work for you guys. So that description will be down in the description. Plus, don't forget to like and review, subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the episodes. And please share this podcast with somebody that can hear and listen to Ian's story, because they need to hear it. They need to know that their mindset and their conviction, when they pair together, can help them do amazing things through positive persistence and intentional focus, can really help them. So I'm so blessed to be surrounded by so many high performers like Ian. And we got, again, more lined up. So we're going to just keep knocking them down, bringing you great stories so you guys can learn from them. But until the next time, stay hungry, keep leading your pack. Now go attack the work.
Let's go get